Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of First Glance, where I share my initial impressions of games to help you decide whether to play, wait for a discount, or skip it altogether. Today I'm diving into Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. This is a spoiler-free review. The footage you see is only from the first 2 hours of the game, and it was made on Xbox Series X. Let's dive in. The first Stalker was released in 2007, and the game had gained almost cult status and a large following of hardcore fans. The game had a very unique atmosphere at the time and innovative survival mechanics, so the pressure was on for the second game to live up to that legacy. The game was in development for almost 6 years with many challenges along the way, but we ended up with an absolutely massive experience. You can expect to spend at least 50-60 hours playing it, and to complete it with side activities you'll need about 100 hours. I have not even come close to finishing it, so the first impression is only after a little over 10 hours of the game. The game starts off pretty strong, you're thrown right into action, and it immediately shows how challenging it's going to be. I played Stalker difficulty, which is the average setting, and it's brutal. You're constantly thinking about your next moves, managing your inventory, and stocking up on healing items and food. This feeling of tension stays with you throughout the game, whether you're working through the main storyline or just exploring the world. Every new house, bunker, or cave feels like it could easily kill you, but you go there anyway because they're always in a desperate need of resources. The balance of survival is a constant struggle. Encounters with humans or mutants are very difficult. One wrong move and you'll bite their radioactive dust. On top of that, the world itself is a threat, radiation is a constant problem, and anomalies force you to test the environment cautiously by throwing bolts to navigate safely. Even walking around the open world to your next destination can be dangerous. This isn't a game where you can charge into every fight. Sometimes running away or sneaking past enemies is your best option. This survival aspect is one of the strongest parts of Stalker. It forces you to make smart decisions and be deliberate with your actions, as everything around you is trying to kill you. That vibe comes straight from the first game, survival and the constant fear of danger. Many times I found myself outrun by enemies and completely out of bullets and healing items. Adding to this challenge, the game includes brutal weather with radioactive rain and the need to maintain hunger and sleep. The night is especially scary, and I love how they made the flashlight weak but realistic. Sometimes you'll want to sleep and wait until morning to explore. Other times you might choose rainy weather at night for a stealthy approach, as enemies are less likely to hear you. But in doing so, you sacrifice visibility, making navigation and survival even more difficult. These mechanics create a perfect survival experience, but when you change the difficulty, the situation changes a bit. On the rookie difficulty, which is the easiest, you can go into many camps and kill 10-20 people and several mutants. The game is not completely easy, but it feels much easier. And in this case, it loses the appeal of the whole game. They explain the difficulty as for the people who just want a story, but the story is not a very strong side of the game. So I kind of wish that this rookie difficulty wasn't in the game at all, and for sure it wasn't selected by default. I feel like most people will choose it, especially people who play with a gamepad, because the shooting is very challenging on it, and lose the strongest parts of the game. Without the sense of survival and dangerous world exploration, unfortunately we don't get as much. The characters and NPCs feel a bit dull, they look pretty much the same and don't have very interesting interactions. The stories they tell aren't very appealing either, and in general I found myself not caring about any of them. Well, except maybe the main character. The NPCs also behave quite badly. At best, they do the same scripted action over and over again. At worst, they just glitch and run around the circles. The plot didn't interest me much either, and the side quests even less. Most of the side quests are like in a regular open world game and not a hardcore survival shooter. So bring this, save that guy, etc. There were a few interesting ones, but most aren't. The NPC also talk with a lot of buzzwords, which I think might make the lore fans happy, but sometimes it's not very clear from the beginning what they are saying. Who are all these fractions and why should we care? Maybe the puzzle will come together as you progress through the game, but I'm not sure. In addition, I found one strange thing that threw me off the atmosphere: the choice of English actors for the voiceovers. For some reason, a lot of NPCs speak with a very strong accents, and it doesn't fit into this Eastern European world at all. You hear strong British, Irish, and even Southern American accents.
Have you met Herman's client yet?
Talk to our boss.
They wouldn't have spared you or Gloomy.
And it all feels really out of place. I tried playing with a Ukrainian voiceover and it felt much better.
Нема більше сталкерської вольниці.
But of course it's harder to follow dialogues with only subtitles, so I switched back to weird Englishmen.
Bloody hell, lad.
The game also has a very slow pacing, especially considering its huge size. This is a journey of many weeks or even months, and I think it's intended that way. You have to live in the zone to fully feel it. The game has a huge distances to cover on foot, a lot of deaths. They even added a death counter, so it's clear it's intended. This part also breaks with change of difficulty to easy. Another drawback, even on Stalker difficulty, is the enemy AI. Most of the enemies are quite deadly, but they are not smart. So if you are expecting some interesting action-oriented encounters, most of the time the enemies will just charge at you at full speed, even with weapons, and you'll be fighting in some kind of horde mode. Kill as many as you can until they reach you. A good example is famous Stalker dogs. They always circle around in the same pattern and jump on you over and over again, and after a few encounters it gets repetitive. I should note though, contrary to the online reviews I saw, I didn't notice any critical bugs and crashes, at least not on Xbox and not on the day of the release. They released a very big patch on the last day, so I guess they fixed a lot of compared to the preview version most journalists got. I think the game is very playable, but there are a lot of little annoyances that I mentioned that can spoil the atmosphere a bit. But in general, the atmosphere in the game is very gripping, and it supports the main goal of the game to put you in this expectant mood of constant danger. I wouldn't say that the graphics show breathtaking results, but it does the job very well. Most of the textures look professional and high-res, shadows and water work as they should, and the zone feels quite realistic. Load times are almost non-existent, which is fantastic for any open-world game, and that's all in performance mode. I tried using quality mode, but I didn't like it. On the Xbox Series X, the FPS just drops too low for comfort. It should be 30 FPS, but I suspect it drops even lower, so I guess the full enjoyment of the graphics can only be experienced by PC gamers. I also want to praise the sound work in the game. For a game where survival is a key, you often want to rely on sounds around you. When you hear enemies, where are they coming from? Are there anomalies nearby? Are there dangers? I find myself listening very closely to the environment. Also, the game has invisible enemies, where it's even more important. There are the occasional minor issues where the sound are not coming from right direction or should not be heard at all, but for the most part it works very well and feels immersive. Everything about the game's controls and UI feels okay-ish. The shooting is not the best, but not the worst either. You can feel a pretty good recoil from the guns. The UI can feel a bit overwhelming, especially in some areas where they kinda mixed gamepad controls with mouse controls, like inventory management. I often found myself looking down the screen to check what button was doing what, but it's not something you can get used to. I love how they did the character animations in real time, so when you need to heal yourself, the character actually picks up the bandage and uses it, or when you switch weapons, or when you pick up your backpack or tablet with the map. Time also never stops, and of course your enemies can sneak up on you while you're checking the map. It all adds up to the realistic survival feeling. Before playing the game, I was really curious to see what direction the developers at GSC Game World would go in, because there were two. They can go for a new audience and make the game very beginner-friendly and forgiving, or they can target the core fans, people who love survival and hardcore exploration, and hope to bring more of those type of people into the audience. Clearly they went the second way, and I'm glad they did. I am sure all fans will be happy with the game, especially after patches, and with the PC Gamers mod builder community, the game will be played for years to come. So if you are looking for a good challenge and realistic survival with hundreds of hours in the harsh post-apocalyptic world of the Zone, I definitely recommend you check this game out now or after a few more patches if you're afraid to face many bugs. But if you are looking for a good first-person shooter, a loose cannon Far Cry kinda type of experience, or an interesting story or easy open-world exploration, I don't think Stalker 2 will scratch that itch. You might as well skip the game or wait for a discount. If you have Xbox Game Pass, you might as well give it a try because it's free there, but don't expect much. Despite all technical issues and the problems the studio has had in the last few years, I think they managed to put out a pretty solid game. The most important thing about Stalker 2 is that it doesn't try to be like everyone else, and that's an amazing quality in the modern gaming world. It does its own thing and caters perfectly to its target audience. I wish more studios were as brave as GSC Game World. Thank you for watching this first glance video. Let me know if you want to see more of this in the future. Let me know what you're playing right now and whether you are planning to pick up Stalker 2. Keep playing, take care, and see you soon.